Hello YouTube. So I was sitting here, I was resizing some 38 special. It's been another 38 day. And just got me thinking about load data and the term I hear a lot thrown around, and it is a true term, a recipe. So it got me thinking, what is a recipe and what is load data? So, the best example I can come up with is on this manual here, the Modern Reloading Manual by Richard Lee. This is pretty much load data. It says it on the front, the most comprehensive load data. So if we look at 38 special in this, or 380, let's look at 380. It's the next round I'm going to be loading up. So basically, you get a little diagram of the cartridge itself, and it tells you what primer to use, what size primer. It says small pistol primer, and then you get a useful case capacity, and then you got the starting loads with the grains of the bullet, and then the powder you're using. Your starting grains and your never exceed. So that's your load data. They have a lot of data. So that would be load data. So anybody that loads with load data, this is usually the book they're going to use, and not necessarily just that book for load data. But as far as recipes, a recipe would be in the Western Powders Hand Loading Guide. So if we turn to 380, they have a cartridge drawing, and then they have a synopsis of that cartridge. But then this is where your recipe is right here in a book like this. You have your actual components you're going to use. It tells you the barrel length that load was tested at. It gives you the diameter of the bullet, which the other one does too, but sometimes bullet diameters will vary based on what bullet you're using. It gives you the trim length for the case, the twist rate of that barrel. It gives you the actual case. Like this one specifies a Remington case. And cases do matter when it comes to loading, because different cases have different thicknesses of brass, and that's going to affect pressures. And then it tells you what type primer was used on these powders, which this one was a Winchester small pistol primer. And then it gives you the maximum case length. So they go with a maximum here. And then they go down to powders and bullet weight. So to me, that's a recipe. We've got our components. We got the barrel with the twist rate. That's kind of like, I guess, the oven. And then you have your case and your primer, and that's your case would probably be like your pan you're putting the cake in. And then your ingredients are going to be the bullet and the powder and the grains you're using. And then your overall trim length and max case length is, I guess, going to be how you're going to trim that cake off if you're doing a layer cake or something. I don't know. But to me, that's an actual recipe. Load data is totally different. You see a lot of people that say, use this recipe. But most of the time when I see those recipes listed, they never include what case they're using. So they're using that term very loosely when it comes to actually what it's talking about. A recipe is where they give you the components to bake this cake, and then they tell you how to do it. Like you're going to start at this grain, you're going to work your way up, so on. That's working the load up. But you get what I'm trying to say here. So there's a difference in load data and a recipe when it comes to those words. So I would say, don't confuse the two. And that's why it's so important, if you're using any manual, but especially, this one, the Modern Reloading, you need to start out at those starting grains. Don't just say, hey, I'm going to shoot it in the middle. Or, I'm going to go 2/10 below max. I should be okay. Nowhere in here does it list what barrel length, twist rate, or case, or primer they've used. Because they get that data from all the powder manufacturers. So if you want that specific recipe, you know, for the cartridge you're going to be loading for, then you need to either verify that data from, you know, books that, you know, vary like that, or, you know, get a reputable load data guide. And that's number one reason why I bought this Western Powders. You know, it's from a reputable powder manufacturer, and they're all reputable. I'm not saying they're better than anybody else. It's just I prefer their powders. But this is more of a recipe, you know, for anybody starting out, or if you want to be more consistent with what the data says, use the same components. Your consistency will be there and you'll see similar results. Now, they may not be perfect because, you know, environment, temperature, and all that's going to affect all that. You know, we're not necessarily doing this in a vacuum, so we won't get it, you know, exact same results as we will out of this book, but they will be closer using those same components than they will just shooting from the hip like I normally do, and just using, you know, any primer or any case or mixed cases. You know, if you've got range brass or pickups, that could vary. You know, and I load a lot of that stuff, so I'm not telling you that's a bad thing to do. But if you want more consistency and you want to start out and measure your data and what you're producing and fine-tune those results, go with the recipe. That's the only way to do it. So I thought I would make this quick video. I thought it was important and get that information out there. Let me know if you liked it. Please subscribe. My goal is 1,500 subscribers in 4 months. So let's hit that. See you guys.